Okay, I need some help crowdsourcing something. I just had an idea at school. I was thinking about how quantum computers work and the way that when you get down to a subatomic level and the electron is going through the computer, it gets to a point where if you block it, it'll just phase through and then it'll be on the other side. Um, and then that's why we have quantum computers so that we can just like use that to our advantage so that you can compute multiple things at once. And so while I was thinking about that, I was thinking, well, how would it phase through it? How does that work? It can't just go through it. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then I got to the idea of what if it didn't phase through, but it traveled into the fourth dimension? It like phased into the fourth dimension. Because if you think about a square, right? If you think about a square and there's something inside the square, right? Then you think it's from the second dimension's perspective, it can't get out. It can't go through any one of those walls to escape. But from our perspective, we see the square and we think, oh, just go over the line, go outside of the square. And so what if in the third dimension, if it was trapped and it couldn't go forward anymore, and there was no way for it to go over or around, it went into the fourth dimension. So out of where we could see, out into the fourth dimension, through the fourth dimension, back into the third dimension. And then that got me thinking, well, that's a really interesting idea. But like, what would we do with that if it was true? And so then I started thinking, well, what if you could compress something enough to expand it into the fourth dimension? Because the first dimension is a line, okay? It's just a line. And then the second dimension is a square. And if you put enough stuff into a section of the line, then it would be forced to expand. It would have to be a hugely dense amount of stuff, but it would have to expand eventually. Because if you put enough subatomic particles to where it's just solid neutrons or solid electrons or solid protons or solid quarks, then it would have to expand if you put more in there somehow. And so then it would expand from the line, it would expand into the second dimension, it would expand into width. And so then you'd have a square. And so then, what if you walled off the square like before, to where you've got a square, and then you put stuff in it, and you keep putting more stuff in it until there's no more space, and it has to expand. And so then it would expand into the third dimension, and then you have a cube, or a sphere. And so then, now that you've got a third dimension, what if you did it again? What if you put so much stuff into that third dimension that it had to expand again into the fourth dimension? And so then, just like how the electron phases out of the third dimension, goes into the fourth dimension, theoretically, in this idea that I'm having, it expands and it goes out into the fourth dimension. And then we wouldn't be able to see it anymore because it would be in the fourth dimension. It would expand out somehow, like into the fourth dimension because it's so compressed. And then I'm thinking, well, that's an interesting idea, but where would we see that? How could I prove something like that? And then I was thinking, the only place that any subatomic particle would be that compressed would be in a black hole or in the center of a neutron star. In a neutron star, it's like subatomic soup, basically. It's all solid subatomic particles, okay? And so then if you took a black hole where it's so compressed and the gravitational force is so great that not even light can escape it, then the matter wouldn't be able to expand because of how dense and powerful the, not the gravitational force isn't dense, but like how extreme the force inward would be, wouldn't be able to expand. And it could be forced into the fourth dimension. And that's why one of the theories of a black hole is it being like a donut shape, because it's being forced into the fourth dimension. And then I got to the idea of like, well, what would that really mean? Even if it could go into the fourth dimension, that would explain why the singularity, if there is a singularity, there are some theories that say it's not. If there is a singularity, that would explain why it might not be a point of infinite density and infinite mass, because it's going somewhere else. And then here's the biggest idea that I have that's probably not true, but if it was, it would be crazy. What if the origin of the universe, right, the Big Bang, was the expansion of the second dimension into the third dimension? Okay? And then if that was true, then that would support the multiverse theory, which is like there could be an infinite number of times that a black hole from like the second dimension, in this theory that's a possibility of a thing. In the second dimension, a black hole exists and it expands and it goes into and creates a third dimension, and then that would be a universe, and then there could be infinitely many in the second dimension or whatever, to where they create infinitely many universes like that. And so then there would be, for us, there is a fourth dimension, but we just can't move through it, okay? Like, I can't move through time, but time exists. So in a black hole, it would be forced, like I was saying, it'd be forced, compressed so much that it expands into the fourth dimension. So then the second dimension would have been compressed so much in that one point at the Big Bang that it expands just so fast. In 1 second, it expands to 100 billion kilometers across. And so then it would be, that would be the force of the compression. That would be all the stuff being compressed so much that it expands into another dimension. And then, in a way, this also supports the block theory, which is of time being a predetermined block, and that we are just existing in a certain point of it. And then you could do this by expanding from our one point on the block. You could be expanding into multiple points of the block. That's how the block theory would work with the idea. Now, I could easily be wrong, okay? I have basically no evidence to support this theory, other than the stuff that I explained and a couple of theories that would align with it. I basically just want to crowdsource this. I want to get as many ideas as possible on this. I don't care what your opinion is. I just want people to talk about this. I want to know what people think in coherence with my idea. It could easily be wrong. It could easily already have been thought of. I've done very little research into it. So call me stupid if you want to. I just would really like to hear what people think. So, thank you.